Put your hand on your jaw. Clench it. Feel that muscle. Now imagine a jaw 4 times as strong. A skull with a bony ridge running across the top just to anchor muscles that size. Teeth built like millstones, ready to grind through raw roots, raw meat, raw everything. That was your ancestor. And somewhere along the way, he traded it away. 2 million years ago, something changed in the human skull. The jaw got smaller, the chewing muscles got weaker, the bony ridge disappeared. By every measure that matters in the animal kingdom, humans got worse at eating. And at the exact same time, the brain got bigger. This is not a coincidence. This is a trade. Here's the problem your ancestor was solving. A brain is expensive. Pound for pound, it burns far more energy than muscle, more than almost any other tissue in the body. A bigger brain needs a bigger fuel supply.
And for most of evolutionary history, that fuel supply had a hard ceiling, because raw food is difficult to extract energy from. Chimpanzees spend nearly half of their waking hours chewing. Raw meat is tough. Raw roots are fibrous. Raw plants are wrapped in cellulose the body barely digests. To get enough calories from raw food, you need enormous jaws, enormous chewing muscles, and a gut long enough to slowly break it all down. Look at a chimpanzee's skull, and you'll see the machinery built for this. A jaw hinge positioned for maximum grinding force. A bony ridge across the top of the skull, called a sagittal crest, that exists purely to anchor jaw muscles too large to fit anywhere else. Massive back teeth, flat and broad, built like millstones. Now look at a human skull. No crest, no room for it. Somewhere in our lineage, a single genetic mutation in the gene that builds jaw muscle, geneticists call it MYH16, broke, and the muscle it once built simply stopped growing to full size. Some researchers believe this mutation appeared around the same time the jaw and chewing muscles began shrinking across the fossil record. Weaker jaw muscles, less bone needed to anchor them, a skull suddenly free to grow upward and outward instead of forward and heavy. All of that costs energy, and energy spent on jaws and guts is energy that cannot go to the brain. Then came cooking. Heat does to food what teeth used to do, and does it better. It breaks down tough fibers before they enter the mouth. It denatures proteins so they're easier to digest. It turns starches into sugars the body can absorb almost immediately. A cooked meal delivers dramatically more usable energy than the same food eaten raw, for a fraction of the chewing effort. Suddenly, the massive jaw wasn't necessary.
The oversized gut wasn't necessary. Evolution is relentlessly efficient. Anything not being used gets scaled back, because maintaining unused tissue is a waste of energy. So the jaw shrank. The chewing muscles thinned, the gut shortened, and every calorie that used to be spent building and running that heavy-duty chewing and digestive machinery got freed up, redirected, spent somewhere else. Anthropologists call this the expensive tissue hypothesis, the idea that the human body made a direct trade, smaller gut, smaller jaw, in exchange for a bigger, hungrier brain. The brain that lets you read this sentence runs on energy your ancestor's jaw gave up. This wasn't a plan. No ancestor decided to trade strength for intelligence. It was simpler and stranger than that. Whoever controlled fire and cooked their food got more calories for less effort. They didn't need the massive jaw anymore.
And bodies that didn't waste energy on unused muscle had more energy left over. Energy that generation after generation kept feeding a brain that was already hungry for more. The ones with slightly smaller jaws and slightly bigger brains outcompeted the ones who stayed raw. Not through strength, through arithmetic. Look at a modern human skull next to an early Homo erectus skull. The difference is startling. Erectus has a heavy jaw, a sloped forehead, a small brain case. You have a fragile jaw, a rounded skull, and inside it a brain 3 times larger relative to your body size than any other primate on Earth. You are, by the numbers, one of the weakest-jawed primates that has ever lived. And here's where the trade still costs you today. Your jaw is now so small that most human mouths don't have room for a full set of adult teeth. Wisdom teeth, the last molars to come in, often have nowhere to go. They come in sideways, impacted, painful, requiring surgery to remove.
This is not a design flaw. This is the price tag on a transaction made 2 million years ago. Your ancestor gave up jaw size for brain size, and you are still paying the closing cost in a dentist chair. Every time you eat something soft, bread, pasta, a smoothie, you are relying on a digestive system that assumes food has already been half processed before it reaches you. Your gut is short. Your stomach acid is comparatively weak next to a true carnivore's. Your jaw could not survive on raw meat and raw roots the way your ancestors could. You are, in a very real sense, dependent on the fire your ancestors started. Some researchers go further. They point out that modern diets are softer than at any point in human history, heavily processed, pre-chewed by machines before they ever reach your mouth, and that human jaws, already shrinking for 2 million years, may now be shrinking faster than our teeth can keep up. That's part of why wisdom tooth removal is so routine today, and why orthodontists exist at all. Crowded, crooked teeth are, in part, a jaw that kept getting smaller in a mouth that didn't get the memo fast enough. This is the part people miss when they picture cavemen as simply weaker, dumber versions of us. The weakness was not a failure. It was an exchange. Your ancestor didn't get worse at surviving. He found a shortcut so good that it was worth giving up the very anatomy that had kept his ancestors alive for millions of years before him. He looked at raw food, looked at fire, and made a bet. I will be physically weaker, so my children can be smarter. Every generation since has been living proof that the bet paid off. Your jaw is weak because your brain is not. You will never bite through a raw root the way a chimpanzee can. You will never grind raw meat like an early hominin. But you can read this sentence, hold an abstract idea in your mind, and understand the trade that made it possible. The weakness was the price. The mind was the purchase. Your ancestor spent his jaw so you could keep the change.